Internet, and welcome to Weird Wednesdays!
Ooh.
Yes, I know Weird Wednesdays didn't happen last week. I got sick. Shit happens. And as I mentioned last week, I'm really into Disneyland, so I thought I'd start off this Weird Wednesday with Disneyland ghost stories that all conveniently fit on one piece of paper. Look at that, it's like the perfect amount of paper for these stories. So, take all of these stories with a grain of salt because they are ghost stories, and you know, ghost stories, it depends on whether or not you believe in ghosts and you believe in that sort of thing. I do, to a degree. Like, I think that it would be cool if there were ghosts in Disneyland. But if there were ghosts in my house, less cool. I don't need the piece of paper because I practically have these memorized. So the first one on my list of Disneyland ghost stories is the Pirates of the Caribbean ghost story, where a little boy, first, disclaimer, it is not legal at all to spread your ashes in a Disneyland ride or in Disneyland. It is highly frowned upon. Anyways, back to the story. A terminally ill boy wanted his ashes to be spread on Pirates of the Caribbean. So it goes in a lot of these stories. The Disneyland told the parents no, but the parents did it anyway, so this boy's ashes were spread in Pirates of the Caribbean. And now the legend goes that when people are working the ride on the screen where they like look at the passengers who are going through the boats or whatever, going on the boats, they see a little boy riding alone in his own boat. It's usually like slower times of the night where there's not really that many people around. They see this little boy all alone on the boat. So they go to check it out, and then there's no one there. Typical ghost story. They're there and then they're not. So the second one is probably the one that creeps me out the most because this is the ride that creeps me out the most. It's a small world. So there is alleged reports of lights going on and off, things moving on their own, which I don't want anything in that ride to move on its own. I mean, other than when it's supposed to, when like things are turned on and they're singing. But if it's dark and they're singing, no! Ride's creepy, but also cute, but really creepy. So the theory goes that the person haunting this ride is a cast member who died and loved the ride so much and was so dedicated to it that they haunt it to this day. I don't know why you'd want to live in It's a Small World for the rest of your afterlife, but that's just me. Another area that is believed to be haunted is the pathway between Big Thunder Mountain and the railroad to Fantasyland to Frontierland, that whole area. There's a pathway and people see an old man. They see an old man sitting on a bench, and when he's approached, he disappears. And Disneyland employees in particular are kind of afraid of this particular ghost. It's said in what I read that they avoid that path at night or like when it's starting to get darker just because they don't like the vibe that this guy is giving off, whoever he is. It'd be funny if he was Walt Disney and just all of his employees are avoiding him. But that's a different ghost story, which we will get to later. I'm going to skip over Peter Pan's Flight. If you want to look into that ghost story, it's short and it's online and you can find it. But I want to move on to Tom Sawyer's Island because it's another one that I think is personally kind of creepy and sad. When the park first opened, or when Tom Sawyer's Island first opened, you were allowed to swim in the lake surrounding it. And one day, 3 boys drowned in the river, and that was no longer allowed. 2 were brothers. The younger brother panicked in the water and started to go under. His older brother jumped to save him, and they both drowned. The 3rd boy who drowned was at the park for graduation night and tried to swim across the river after consuming alcohol. Don't swim and drink, guys. So since that time, numerous employees have spotted these boys in and around the island. This next ghost has my favorite name for ghosts in all of the Disneyland theories, and he is Mr. One-Way, because he gets on, but he never gets off. He is a ghost that haunts Space Mountain, or Hyperspace Mountain now, and he is supposedly ginger, and he gets on as a single rider, and then he is gone by the time the ride is over. Creepy? Probably not likely, but I love his name. Mr. One Way, hats off to you. And I've saved the best for last, the man himself, Walt Disney. Walt Disney is said to supposedly haunt various places in the park, but the one he is seen or associated with most often is the firehouse, where his apartment is. If you know anything about Disney, you know that he has an apartment up there for him and his family and a place for him to go when he's in the parks. There's a lamp in that firehouse, and it sits in the window. And when he was there, he would turn on the light to let everyone, all of his employees, know that he is in the park and they were being watched, to be on their extra special behavior. Nowadays, the light is kept on always in his memory. Except one day there was a cast member, probably a newer cast member, who didn't know all the lore or whatever. That's the only way I can assume this happened. She was checking out the firehouse, like checking to make sure everything was okay. She went in, checked everything out, and then turned off the lights. Turning off also the lamp in the window. Then she went down to the second floor and noticed that the lights were still on. So she turned them off, she went downstairs, looked up at the window, saw that it was on. So she went back upstairs, and the lights were still on, and supposedly she heard a voice that said, "Don't forget, I'm still here." And that's the story, and they still leave the light on in honor of Walt. Whether he's there just in spirit or in our hearts, the light remains on for him. My printer just scared the crap out of me. You know how printers just sometimes randomly make noise? It's really bad when they randomly make noise when you're talking about ghosts. Anyways, those are my Disney ghost stories. If you guys want to hear more ghost stories of other various places, maybe I can look them up. Leave a comment down below. And yeah, if you want to just talk about Disneyland and Disney World and all these Disney places, tell me. And if you know the ghost stories that I didn't mention, leave them down below. Alright guys, that's it for today. See you on Monday. DFDBA.